There's a number that quietly splits your financial life in two. Before it, every dollar feels like a battle. After it, something shifts. Money you never touched starts multiplying on its own. Most people never reach it, and the few who do all describe the same strange feeling. That number is $100,000. Everyone talks about earning their first 100 grand. They grind, they save, they sacrifice, they treat it like the finish line. But here's what nobody tells you. The 100,000 isn't the finish line. It's the starting line. The moment you cross it, the rules change. Your money starts behaving differently. Your mind starts behaving differently. The same effort suddenly produces wildly different results. And by the end of this, you'll understand why the rich aren't just lucky. They simply survived long enough to watch this happen. Why? The first $100,000 feels impossible. Let's be honest about the early days. They're brutal. You open your investing app and the number barely moves. You put in $500. A month later, it's worth $490. You did everything right, and it still feels like you're going backward. This is where most people break. In the beginning, almost all of your growth comes from one place. You. Your paycheck. Your savings. Your discipline. The market isn't helping you yet. It's barely awake, so you cut the subscriptions. You cook at home. You drive the old car a few more years. You watch friends take trips you can't afford and post photos you scroll past in silence. Then, after 2 long years of doing everything right, you check your accounts, and maybe you've saved $30,000. Think about that. $30,000. You did something most people never manage to do, and somehow it still feels like almost nothing, because the finish line is so far away you can barely see it. That's the cruelty of the early climb. Even your wins feel small. And the worst part isn't the sacrifice. It's the silence. No applause, no reward. Just a number that climbs so slowly you start to wonder if it's even worth it. Thousands of people quit right here, just steps away from where everything changes. Because what happens next is invisible, right up until the exact moment that it isn't. The quote that changed how investors think. In the world of investing, one man said something so blunt it became legendary. Charlie Munger, the billionaire partner of Warren Buffett, one of the sharpest financial minds who ever lived. When he was asked about building wealth, his answer was simple. The first 100,000 is the hardest, brutally hard, but you have to get there, no matter what it takes. After that, he said, you can ease off the gas. Now stop and think about what that means. One of the greatest investors in history didn't say the first million. He didn't say the first 10 million. He pointed straight at the first 100,000. Why? Because Munger understood something beginners don't. The first 100,000 isn't really about the money. It's the price of admission. It's proof that the engine is finally big enough to run. Beginners look at 100 grand and see a pile of cash. Experienced investors look at it and see a machine. A machine that's about to switch on. This is exactly why beginners underestimate it. To a new investor, 100,000 looks like an ending, something to spend, something to enjoy, a reason to finally relax. They have no idea they're staring at the single most powerful tool they will ever own. And that machine has a name. The hidden engine finally starts. It's called compounding, and it's the closest thing to magic that money will ever have. Here's how it works. When you have $100,000 invested, a normal year in the market might earn you around 8%. That's $8,000 in a single year, without you lifting a finger. Stop and feel that for a second. $8,000. For a lot of people, That's months of saving, money you bled for, and now your money is producing that much on its own, while you sleep, while you work, while you live your life. Compare that to the start. When you only had $1,000 invested, that same 8% earned you $80. Real, but invisible. You'd never even notice it. At 100,000, the growth finally becomes loud enough to hear. But here's where it gets beautiful. That $8,000 doesn't just sit there. Next year, it goes to work too. So now, you're not earning 8% on 100,000. You're earning it on 108, then 117, then 126. Every single year, the base gets bigger. So the growth gets bigger, which makes the base bigger still. It feeds itself. Left completely alone, at that rate, your 100,000 can roughly double in about 9 years, $200,000. And more than half of that second 100 came from growth you never worked a single hour for. This is the moment the engine starts. Your money stops being a passenger. It becomes a second worker on your team, one that never gets tired, never takes a day off, never asks for a raise, and once you've watched it happen, you can't unsee it. Something changes in the way you think about everything. The strange psychological shift. This is where the story gets strange, because the biggest transformation after 100,000 isn't in your bank account, it's inside your head. Suddenly, you have proof. Proof that your plan actually works. Proof that you can do hard things and stick with them. And that proof does something powerful. The financial anxiety that used to keep you up at night starts to go quiet. You stop panicking when the market drops because you've watched it fall and recover before. You stop chasing every get-rich-quick scheme because you're no longer desperate. You start thinking in years instead of days. Waiting stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like strategy. Money decisions that once filled you with fear now feel calm, clear, almost boring. You stop checking your accounts 5 times a day. You stop measuring your worth against everyone else's highlight reel. The noise that used to control your emotions barely registers anymore. And here's the wild part. This confidence isn't fake, it's earned. You built it one boring deposit at a time, on days when nobody was watching. You're not calmer because you got rich. You feel safer because, for the first time, there's a real foundation under your feet. That mindset, more than the money, is what separates the people who keep climbing from the people who slide all the way back down. When money starts working harder than you. Now let's talk about the line that almost nobody crosses. For your entire life, there have only been 2 ways to make money. You work for it, or it works for you. In the beginning, it's all you. Every single dollar comes from your effort, your hours, your sweat. But somewhere after 100,000, a quiet shift begins. Your investment growth starts catching up to your paycheck. Picture this. Your money earns $10,000 in a year while you sleep, and your own savings add another $15,000 on top. Suddenly your money is contributing almost as much as you are. Keep going, and one day it contributes more. That's the moment everything flips, because your time is limited. You only have so many hours to sell, and you can never get them back. But your money has no such limit. It can work 24 hours a day, across every market on earth, forever. Think about the difference. You can grind through a brutal 60-hour week and earn exactly 1 paycheck. Your money can work all 168 hours of that same week, and it never clocks out. It doesn't rest on the weekend. It doesn't sleep when you sleep. The hours you can sell will always run out one day. The hours your money can work never do. This is the secret the wealthy understand that the rest of the world misses. They're not trying to work harder. They're trying to own things that work while they don't. They turn time itself into an employee. And the earlier you start, the more of that time ends up on your side. The dangerous trap nobody talks about. But here's where it gets dangerous, because the same milestone that builds you can quietly destroy you. The moment people feel rich, they start acting rich. The raise gets spent before it even arrives. The bigger apartment, the nicer car, the lifestyle creeps up and swallows every extra dollar. They call it lifestyle inflation, and it's silent. It doesn't feel like a mistake. It feels like a reward you finally deserve. Picture someone who finally hits 100,000. Then they hand themselves $1,000 a month lifestyle upgrade. A nicer place, a new car payment, better everything. Their money was finally ready to go to work for them. Instead, they sent it right back out the door and quietly switched off the very engine they spent years building. Then comes overconfidence. After a few good years, some people start believing they simply can't lose. They pour money into risky bets they don't understand, chasing the next big thing, certain they've cracked the code. And just like that, the discipline that got them here disappears. Here's the cruelest part of wealth. The real danger isn't failure, it's success. Failure keeps you humble. Success makes you reckless. Plenty of people reach 100,000 and then slowly slide backward, never realizing the trap was sprung the day they decided they'd already made it. The ones who keep winning do one simple thing. They keep living like the number never changed. Why the second $100,000 usually comes faster. Now for the good news. If you survive that trap, something incredible happens. The second 100,000 comes faster, often a lot faster. And the math behind it is beautiful. Remember the beginning, when you started from zero? You had nothing helping you, just your own deposits, one at a time. It might have taken you 7 long years to reach that first 100,000. But now, you're not starting from zero. You're starting from 100,000 that's already growing on its own. Your money is throwing off thousands of dollars every year, and you're still stacking your own savings on top of it. 2 engines running at the same time. Watch how differently it moves. You add your savings, the market adds its share, and the gap to 200,000 shrinks a little more each year. The first year, you barely notice. By the third, you can see it coming. By the 5th, you're already standing on the other side. So that same climb, the one that took 7 years, can now take 4, maybe even less. Then the third 100,000 comes faster than the second, and the fourth faster than the third. It's not because you suddenly got smarter. It's because your money finally has enough weight to pull more money toward it. The first 100,000 was a push. Everything after it is a pull. What $100,000 really proves. So let's get to the truth this whole story has been building toward. The 100,000 was never really about the money at all. Think about what you had to become to get there. You had to be disciplined enough to save while everyone around you spent. Patient enough to wait while the numbers crawled. Consistent enough to keep going through boring years and terrifying drops. You had to give up things you wanted today for a version of you that didn't exist yet. And you had to build systems. Automatic deposits, a budget, a plan you actually stuck to. Here's the part that matters most. Those traits don't vanish once you hit the number. They're now baked into who you are. And that is worth far more than $100,000, because money can be lost, a person can be robbed, a business can fail, everything can burn down and start again from nothing. But discipline, patience, and consistency, once they're built into you, can rebuild any fortune from scratch. And the world pays for those traits everywhere, not just in the market. The person who can stay disciplined, wait for the right moment, and follow a plan, when it's boring, doesn't only build a portfolio, they build a career, a business, a whole life that compounds the exact same way. The 100,000 isn't your reward, it's your receipt, proof of the person you became while earning it. The wealth snowball. In the end, wealth works like a snowball rolling down a hill. At the very top, it's tiny. You push, and it barely moves. Your arms ache. The progress is so small, you can hardly see it. This is where almost everyone quits. They let go of the snowball right before gravity takes over. But if you hold on, if you keep pushing through that slow, silent, frustrating beginning, something changes. The snowball grows heavy enough to roll on its own. Then it grows faster and faster, until it's so massive that stopping it would be harder than starting it ever was. The hardest part of building wealth was never the math. It was surviving the part where nothing seemed to be happening. So if you're standing at the top of that hill right now, pushing with everything you have, and watching the snowball barely move, understand this. That's not failure. That's the price. Every single person who ever got wealthy stood exactly where you're standing and felt exactly what you feel. Because wealth stays invisible, right up until the moment it becomes obvious. And the people who win in the end aren't the smartest or the luckiest. They're simply the ones who refused to let go of the snowball. So here's my question for you. Are you still chasing your first 100,000, fighting through that slow and silent climb? Or have you already crossed it and felt the shift for yourself? Tell me in the comments. I read them, and your story might be the exact push someone else needs to keep going. If this changed the way you see money, subscribe. Because every week, we break down the hidden lessons of wealth that schools never teach and the rich almost never explain out loud. Keep pushing. Your snowball is closer to rolling than you think.